Ladies and gentlemen, as I said before, we are starting this a little bit complicated structure in our agenda. So it's going to be 3 parallel sessions focused on identifying barriers that stand in the way of meaningful progress in health and life sciences, of course. But just a quick reminder, you are, of course, welcome to move between the 3 additional spaces we have for these panels, and if you would like to change the room, this is the proper time. Our team will help you. Of course, this is also the information for you guys in additional spaces on the 2nd floor. If you would like to change the place, please do this now. And let me introduce the titles, simply, not only the titles of the sessions and moderators who will guide these important conversations in 3 parallel sessions. So in this place, in this room, we are going to have a healthcare session. The session will explore how to overcome system-level challenges and build more resilient and people-centered healthcare. As Niklas said, people are the most important. Moderated by Guldemond, CEO and founder of Medical Field Lab and professor of public health at Gdańsk Medical University and Leiden University Medical Center. You can take the stage right now, and in a moment we will invite the panelists. But let me introduce additional 2 discussion panelists. So biopharma, this session will focus on unlocking innovation in biotechnology and pharmaceuticals as well by identifying regulatory and market access challenges. And the moderator of this part of the event will be Magdalena Chlebus. I'm waving and I hope that you can see and hear me clearly. Magdalena Chlebus is Executive Director for Scientific and Regulatory Affairs at EFPIA. So greetings, Magdalena. And 3rd room, MedTech and Digital Health. This is going to be a deep dive into how digital tools, in fact, and medical technologies can overcome fragmentation and accelerate innovation. And moderated, this part will be by Montse Daban. Hello, Montse. Thank you for being with us as well. In 3rd room, upstairs on the 2nd floor, Montse is a Director of Strategic Foresight and International Relationships at BioCat. Oh my goodness, I did it. So the stage is yours. Yours stages are also yours and additional spaces, and we are closing the broadcast right now, so take the stage and invite your panelists. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and congratulations. It's a really nice, elaborative introduction. Yeah, so welcome everybody. I'm Nick Guldemond, as introduced. So this session is about overcoming barriers to progress and what must change to achieve our goals. And also thank you very much, Nicholas, for the keynote. I think we know a lot already for many years on what we should do to improve innovation, development, and research, bring it to the community, and improve healthcare. But we have challenges, as I'm sure tomorrow was also very much discussed. I came in a little bit late. I had a night flight from Lisbon. I was at the International Integrated Care Conference, where we had a session on the use of diagnostics for providing person-centered care for diabetes patients. It was a session with Roche, so public-private partnership with the International Diabetes Federation. And it was a typical example where you saw the role of something like a device, AI algorithms, in the management of diabetes. But actually we also discussed, so a device, AI algorithms and data alone is not enough to achieve proper outcomes for patients. It's very much dependent on the whole process of care, which includes lifestyle aspects, the role of primary care, the collaboration between the family doctor, the diabetes nurse, the social worker, might be the the personal context of the patient, of course the specialist, rehabilitation center, etc., a little bit depending on the needs of the patient. And if we only focusing on single solutions, the pills, the powders, the devices, the apps, or the data, we can't achieve better outcomes. We can't create potential cost savings for the systems to avoid complications. Increasingly and globally, this is a huge problem that our healthcare systems are not performing accordingly. We have wonderful science for years, excellent science. We have wonderful solutions, but increasingly they're becoming unaffordable. Even in the Netherlands, innovative cancer therapies are in debate whether they are affordable for the future. And look at Central Eastern Europe, countries where I work a lot on improvement of care for patients with cancer and other chronic diseases and transformation of healthcare systems. It's affordability of proper care and also creating these outcomes which requires a sort of systems change is needed. So within this context, we have our research and innovation, which hopefully can translate into sustainable solutions, which create better outcomes, hopefully at a sort of lesser cost, or help produce a sort of gain of societies. So I was raised in this Dutch ecosystem of science, and Nicholas, I think nicely he described on what is needed. Wonderful examples from Amsterdam. I worked in Leiden, in Rotterdam, in Maastricht, in most of the university medical centers. I know also about the darker side of all these science collaboration and how much vested interest there are. The toxic competition among groups and not willing to share data. I did some work in brain cancer. Sharing of data among some of the professors and research group is really difficult because they are afraid for competition, their status, there are a lot of egos in the systems. There's even a phrase, a sort of, they call it the science mafia, a sort of group of people who are deciding, who are pulling the strings on where the money should go, who should do what, in Brussels, in the Netherlands, with the industry, etc. So I think we should also be not naive and be realistic and be honest to each other on how we can improve. So without further ado, I would like to invite our wonderful panel and that we have a really open and interesting debate. And I would like to ask Vink from Erasmus Medical Center, Lucyna Woźniak, please come forward, and Ramon Maspons from Catalunya from Barcelona in Catalunya, please. So the session is, so I'm gonna address this eloquent panel with, we have a fourth person. Sorry, I have here in my list, so, but you will introduce yourself in a moment. So I will ask two main questions, and I ask my colleagues to reflect on that. And then hopefully we have some questions for the room, that is really interactive. So may I ask the panel to introduce them shortly about who you are, your organization, and your role. Can I start here at the left-hand side with Lucyna, please?
Hello, I'm Malgorzata Kośla, Baxter Research Foundation. You can just call me Gosia. My parents didn't give me a name that is very international. So Baxter Research Foundation, people say it is an NGO working as a biotech startup. I rather prefer to say that we are a patient-led global research collaboration, and each word in this is very important because it is very international and interdisciplinary project. And the motivation is my daughter. She was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease 3 years ago. And back then there was one scientist working on the disease. Today there is more than 60 researchers in 8 countries, including European countries, of course, working on different treatment options from basic science, translational science, and clinical observations. We are part of Warsaw Health Innovation Hub at Medical Agency for Research in Poland, and I'm also a member of Rare Disease Council at Ministry of Health.
Thank you very much.
My name is Lucyna Woźniak. I'm currently Vice Rector for International Relations at the Medical University of Łódź. And few words maybe about the university, because it's quite specific for Poland that we educate only in 3 disciplines: medicine, pharmacy, and public health. However, we as the university are involved in several pan-European networks, including EIT Health. So it is a network dedicated to active life and healthy aging, for the addressing to the aging population of Europe, and we are also the only Polish partner within reference sites of active and healthy aging in Europe, having the highest rank in this 4 stars. We are 4 stars partners. We are very proud of it. I'm saying about this because we try to build up our activity within Europe on the international collaboration as the university.
Thank you very much, Lucyna. And Greet?
Yeah. My name is Greet Vink. I actually worked with, with you for a long time in Delft. I'm the director of the Research Development Office at the Erasmus Medical Center. We started 3 years ago with the Smart Health Tech Center. Also at Erasmus MC, I'm also the director of that. And recently, I always start new things, sorry, but recently I also started a Women's Health Research and Innovation Center at the Erasmus MC with, of course, many colleagues. I'm not doing it alone. So, and Erasmus Medical Center, I think, is, well, one of the best, I think, one of the university hospitals that has most of the European projects. Until recently, because the University of Amsterdam merged with the Free University Hospital, so they are a little bit above us, but okay. Without the merge, they would be below us.
Thank you very much, Greet. And Ramon, please.
Yes, I am Ramon Maspons, Chief Health Innovation Strategist at Ministry of Health of Catalonia. And at the time, I'm sharing this position with the Chief Innovation Officer at AQuAS, Health Technology Assessment Agency. I'm leading for the last 15 years, all related with public procurement of innovation strategy at the ministry, also leading some of the projects. And for the last 5 years, I'm leading the program from adoption of innovation from Catalan healthcare system.
Thank you so much. So we have a very nice, diverse panel. So we know that we have to step up, we have to do better. So the question is a little bit, what can we learn from the past? What are the good things we should keep and maybe strengthen? And what we should do different to make Europe stronger, more fairer, solutions more affordable, strengthen research, etc. So who wants to start?
Okay, let me start from the position of the university,
yes,
because it's very basic. As I said, our university is involved in several European initiatives because we decided that we can't operate as a separated organism and want to be involved in the major challenges that are in front of the European community. We were involved in the very beginning on the creation of the program, we are very proud of it, of the EIT Health. And we are from the very beginning active partners, and I must say that we are, I think, quite successful but we have to remember that Poland is 27th in the rank of innovation on innovation European scoreboard. So there is plenty to do and plenty to eat, to learn and to digest in our ecosystem. So a few years ago, we decided to build up the strategy of the university of so-called knowledge triangle, involving education, innovation, and research combined together, because our practice just informed our practical approach to classical university education is not enough to create entrepreneurs and innovators. You have to put it from the very beginning into the students' programs. You have to involve it into the researchers' activity, and you have to create it in collaboration with external partners. These external partners were our colleagues, our partners from EIT Health, but also citizens from Łódź and from our region, and citizens and also local authorities. We wanted to, and we learned that doing it together, we can achieve much more. There is one more group that we involved in many of our projects from the very beginning. These were senior citizens of our city, where they were invited to co-create some projects from the very beginning. And it was extremely efficient because their opinion, their involvement sometimes changed our projects in quite spectacular way. So this is first collaboration with different stakeholders, with different partners, everyday collaboration to build trust. Because to work daily with different partners, you have really to build trust. You have really to build an ecosystem. Maybe quoting Manuel Castello, who is a very famous sociologist. We need people, we need network, and for network we need trust, and it's time consuming, and it's not something that comes from day to day. We have to remember that building trust is a long process, and we observe it within EIT Health, which has this year's 10th anniversary, and we are still learning about our partners. We are still building this network. So the question how to improve is this activity is to build the sustainable network, and this is, I think, the most difficult at this stage.
What is required to make it sustainable?
Sorry?
What is required to make it sustainable, to build a sustainable network?
For this, you need a leadership, you need very good people. So people are extremely important. Human resources are crucial, but also, of course, funds that are required for this sustainable system. But I think that if you ask me to validate these different factors, I should say that people are crucial, and leadership within network is also very important to make consensus how to drive the platform or partnership.
If we look, for example, to Romania, to Bulgaria, maybe Moldova or Albania, so our potential partner in this. So how do you see that as building network? Is that?
Yeah, this is we are all discussing these days what is happening in the widening countries and how to use the potential of these countries, these emerging countries and emerging societies. I think it's very important to let them be involved in regular activity, not to build up separate ecosystems for them, but take them immediately into the major challenges, because we are losing time, and timing is very important. We have not talked too much today about how important it is to improve our efficacy by shortening these processes of integration, of improved collaboration, of involvement of different stakeholders, partners, countries, regions into the European research area. And for this, we have to be very efficient in building up legal regulations. We have to be efficient in giving real access to some data that we create. The best or the worst example is the system of biobanks in Europe, which are efficiently regulated, but it's so difficult to get access to biosamples if we are even, neighbors from the other university. And I'm very scared about this new platform, which is created by the citizens' health data, because again, the question is about regulations that will allow us accessing this data. Mm-hmm. From the point of view of researcher, I know how struggling, how painful is to get any data from my hospital, which is connected with the university. So this is about legal regulations. This is about mentality. This is about trust. This is about a complementarity of systems, etc., etc. And time, which is absolutely crucial factor.
Absolutely agree, and very useful lessons here. So maybe we keep a little bit in the Polish context. So your neighbor, so what is your reflection on this? How it works in the Polish context with the different organizations into sort of attempt to improve and strengthen infrastructures, collaborations?
So from what I observe definitely from the Polish perspective, as we are based in Warsaw, is that we need more, not only international cooperation, but more interdisciplinary cooperation. So what we observe locally, like we work with partners in US, with Oxford in UK, and in different European countries, but sometimes it was a challenge to connect organizations that are across the same street. Because one is in basic science and the other is in clinical research, and they don't talk to each other. And somehow, I can tell it from the patient organization perspective, sometimes I feel too much competitiveness between them, and it is also the place where patients can help, because bringing the patient in the center, you somehow, I believe, forget about the fights, about the KPIs for a while, because you are really focused on the patient. And I'm really glad that in the previous session it was said a lot about patient engagement, and I appreciate the fact that in Europe we talk about it in context of ethics, that we want to have a social impact, not only making money. That's great, but the truth is, and I'm also happy that Niklas showed it in the keynote, that patients can be the drivers for money as well, and for doing things, really. And if we all are aware that there is this valley of death for translational science, though it is very hard to take it from bench to bedside. And we have a lot of very great science in Poland, in entire Europe, and I wouldn't ever say that there are worse scientists in Europe than in US, from my experience. The thing is that you need not only to have somebody in the project from the very beginning who understands the regulatory landscape and is navigating from the very beginning what data is gathered, so it is useful in preclinical trials and later in clinical trials. So you need this person, and it may be a company, it may be a startup, it may be an NGO, also led by patients. But you also need a tons of motivation. And I believe it is really underappreciated that patients have this motivation to move things forward, they have the sense of urgency. So sometimes in my project, in 3 years we did as much. People say that in normal science you do it in 10, 15 years. And it is because at some points we didn't wait that for a grant, but we invested 10,000 euros, for example, to have iPSCs and then differentiated neural cells. So we didn't wait for that. We worked on other areas to get a grant. So we can cross the bottlenecks because we have sense of urgency, and it is not just another project. It is we have a target, and it is curing the people. It is not the number of publications. It is not the not having a great name and recognizable. Like you said about the dark sides of the science, and we are aware of all of that because we met with that. Fortunately, we are able to work with people who are really open-minded and are for open science, and because of that, we can really move fast. And so my message, like, in answering your question, from Polish perspective, we need more collaboration, definitely. Like, I would say it is the biggest issue. Information flow, there are great information on the EU, initiatives on EU level, and we just don't know about it. Like, we know because we want to be in these European structures, but people in Poland don't know very often what they can be part of. But across Europe, I see we need more patient engagement. We have great examples, like, for example, in rare diseases, Teleton, which developed gene therapy. But we have small organization, for example, now in Slovenia, that is just starting gene therapy in Slovenia, in EU, for their gene therapy. And we don't leverage that. We don't support this organization. And in US, they already do that. There's Trans-Zuckerberg initiative. There's much easier access to philanthropic capital. In Europe, entrepreneurs, they don't invest in science, and it is a huge problem from my perspective as well. So that's my point of view.
And maybe, so recently there was a tragic incident here in Krakow with a doctor who was murdered by a patient. And I also working in Poland, and had also issues more at the delivery side, at the provision of care and difficulties. So also, do you see there opportunities to team up with more the application side of innovation, improvement, accessibility, and had to make it as a whole much better, and a sort of synergy between university development, private industry, and what we can do with patients? Do you see there lessons or things we should do?
So, as we can see from the very morning, there are like, you can do something important in almost all areas, and definitely the application of discoveries is one of the topics. The accessibility of drugs in Poland is an issue because one thing is that EMA will register the drug, the other is whether the company will apply for the reimbursement in Poland, and if the drug is accessible. So we have, it is the huge issue, for example, and also the application in clinical setup is an issue. And this example with the patient, I think that there's a lot about empathy and communication, and it is the same in science. The examples that I gave you, that people across the street cannot talk to each other, it is also about communication. And I believe that nowadays, with all AI tools and the fact that we don't have to memorize everything anymore, maybe we should have more space in educational programs for researchers, for clinicians, for everyone, for soft skills, for meeting real patients during the studies and talking to them and there is no reason why the person who will work with vials in the laboratory shouldn't talk to the patient. And it is still happening. People are working 20 years in the lab and not seeing the patient they are working for. So how it may work? So that's something that should change, and then maybe the incidents like recently in Krakow wouldn't happen, because there will be more understanding on the both sides, and they are not different sides.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Greet, what is your take on the lessons learned and how to overcome typical barriers for ambitions?
I think that what we learned is that we can cooperate via European programs. We can cooperate across Europe, which I think is a great asset, but it needs still improvement. What I think is, and I wouldn't say that that's wrong, but it's something we should improve, is communicate. We should communicate better. And I give this example because, for example, I'm running the Smart Health Tech Center, so we are dealing with companies, SMEs, startup companies, also larger companies, on certain innovations. And it's so technology driven, it's so technology pushed that, you know, it doesn't fit the system. And it takes a lot of talking to convince those people that nobody in the end is going to buy it. I mean, if you don't work in co-creation with patients, with doctors, nurses, extremely important, because they are often doing the actual work, people in the lab, involve them all, it's not going to work. So I always said to them, well, I don't know how you want to earn your money, but this is not going to give you any income later on if you work like this. The other thing is, also the mistake is made on the hospital side. Doctors and nurses don't communicate very well either, because they know what the problems are. They know what the problems are with their patients, and articulating that very good, it also helps companies to come up with the right products. So one way or the other, everybody is doing his thing in his own silo, and then people want us to buy things. And those things all end up somewhere in the closet because it doesn't work, which is a complete waste of money. So it's better to do it in co-creation. Maybe it takes a little bit more time, but then you have people that are going to buy it and you have people that are going to use it. And I think that's something that in any new program should be integrated. It's not that, oh yes, you should have a patient federation and you should have a company, and then, of course, a university hospital. That's not the solution. I think you have from start to convince, or at least a financial organization has to put something in to force people to communicate and co-create from start. They start now co-creating when they're given the grant, which is too late.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you very much. So, Erasmus Medical Center, I know it quite well, and it's almost a sort of cathedral of excellent science, technology. It's a huge building. It's like a cathedral, really. People are really impressed if they
20,000 people are working there, and we see over, I think, 100,000 patients per year. So.
Exactly, a turnover of 2 billion, I remember. So, but
which is not really an income we have to invest immediately.
Yeah, no, sure.
Paying off the hospital, for example.
But so I remember at the time, it was very, very, let's say, excellence, very
driven, yep.
Specialist, hyper specialist driven. So how do you make this happen in such an environment where everybody's so focusing on publications and doing their little bit in this complex world? So how do you how do you support people into reaching out into communities?
Well, I think the good thing also about the European Commission is that everything got impact driven, which of course publications are important, but they are not the most important thing, which also changed the way people are evaluated nowadays in our hospital. because we take a look whether they make impact as well. And they have to show that they make impact, which is a big difference from the past. I'm working there now for 10 years, and in the last 5 years we have impact as a very crucial criterion for making a career. Doesn't mean that happens overnight. We have silos. And even if you are a doctor, it doesn't mean, like you said, that you understand your patient and your patient's problem. Mm-hmm. And so there we still have a long way to go. And then, of course, we also have more fundamental scientific departments. So now we try to connect them and work on certain problem areas. And then you discover that they have a lot in common and that they can actually help each other, solving problems. But it doesn't mean that you have to cut down the silos. That's the whole thing. You have to work transdisciplinary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as already mentioned, should we facilitate that also more from a policy perspective and a European perspective?
Yeah, I think that would be a very good idea. And that makes that we should actually start working problem-driven. Articulate very clearly what the problem are, and don't mention, oh yeah, yes, we have a health workforce problem. Yes, we know. But behind that problem, what is the real problem? Mm-hmm. And the real problem is that, for example, I have been more or less shadowing a lot of doctors and nurses in my hospital, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not trained, I'm a simple biologist by training and a geographer. So, but I shadowed them. So I walked around for a whole day, sometimes days, that department, that nurses, doctors. I discovered, and of course, I'm not in the profession, so I asked very awkward questions. I said, why are you doing this in this way? I mean, you're walking up and down to get all kinds of materials, leaving the patient alone with all the risks. So maybe we should have some innovation. So now we are working on a robot car that parks itself in front of the patient's room. The patient stays, of course, not unattended. And we don't waste all the materials, you know, for example, when they have wounds. You have so many materials you can use. I didn't know. Mm-hmm. There are 60 type of different things. Yeah. So how to choose the right one? And if it has been in the room and it's not the right one, you have to throw it away. Mm-hmm. So with the robot car, which also more or less calculates whether there's still enough in, you know, you save time, you help the patient, you reduce the cost, and you're greening.
That's a very nice example, and I was reminded of the time. So, Ramon, coming back to you, and you already, in your introduction, you mentioned procurement. So, besides the different topics already discussed, partly it's a barrier is adaptation, access, and also procurement in this respect play a role. So could you elaborate a little bit your view on this sort of barriers? How can we improve market access, adaptation, and for example, how can procurement work in this?
Okay, I like to give you some facts and figures, 3 facts and figures related with all of this. According FDA, 22,000 pre-market submissions are made per year. 22,000. According to FDA, fewer than 9% of these products achieve implementation. Fewer than 9%. It means between 7 and 9%. Does it mean that, according to FDA, 20,000 pre-market submissions never achieve the market per year? 20,000 pre-market submissions. According PricewaterhouseCoopers Survey 2020, fewer than 25% of the R&D grant results get commercialized in Europe. Fewer than 25% of R&D grant results. And according to also this survey, more than 50% of public contracts do not achieve their goals. More than 50%. So, getting all this and mixing all this information, it's quite clear that we have a clear problem of adoption of innovation. Not of generating innovation, but of adopting innovation. And the main problem related with adoption of innovation is, first of all, to support the system readiness to adopt innovation, and at the time to support adaptability and maturity, the alignment and maturity of innovations to address system needs. But who is defining system needs? Companies, patients, healthcare providers, payers? First point to solve, who is defining system needs? Maybe a mixed system, bottom-up, using healthcare providers, patients, top-down, using payers and policymakers. First point to solve. Second point to solve is like a perfect storm. Never before so much innovation in companies' portfolio, but at the time, never before so little money in public sector for procuring this innovation. And unfortunately, this situation will go on in the next years. With AI, with 3D, it's impossible to adopt all these innovative solutions. And the big problem with adoption is reimbursement. Unfortunately, most of us are familiar with TRLs, technology readiness level, but few of us are familiar with ARL, adoption readiness level. In each stage of TRL, it exists an ARL, but nobody is taking care of the ARL. Then what happens? Companies, entrepreneurs, spin-offs, researchers come with business models with no sense for the payer. Thinking AI. How do we can procure an AI solution? We can procure as a good, as a service, maybe with a risk-sharing agreement, risk-sharing risk-sharing financial based in total cost, risk-sharing outcome-based, outcome guarantee, outcome condition to evidence generation, gain sharing according to savings after delivering the service. Companies not always are prepared for all this reimbursement management, and they don't take care of all of this when they begin the projects.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that this domain of reimbursement, financing, procurement procedures, etc., should we do something in order to provide better support and knowledge to organizations? Like in Spain, you have different regions working with procurement, organization reimbursement models. Is this something also from a European perspective where we have to step up and reach out not to the obvious, let's say, players who typically applying for these sort of programs and support, but also to, well, other countries? What is your reading on this?
I agree with my colleague that all of these have to be taken care in the earlier stages of the research activities. What need are the projects solving? And very often it's extremely difficult to find the right definition of the need. We used to play, sometimes to play a game with physicians, nurses, trying to find the right definition of need. I want this. No, this is not the right definition. I need. I want a Da Vinci. I want a robot. No. We need to improve safety at operating room. We need to improve precision at operating room. It's quite different, because maybe then robot is not the solution.
Yeah.
Can I add
It
something?
takes eight hours more, I think,
Yeah.
the operation with the Da Vinci.
Yeah.
Although it is far much better for the patient because the patient can go home earlier. So we save in the bedtime, 2 days.
Yeah.
But we need maybe 2 surgeons, 8 hours of staff for an operation. So that's... And are we worth to pay for that?
Yeah, that's true, and it shows a little bit the complexity and delicacy on how to decide where to invest. The development, the whole chain we need in order to get it to the patient. So we're running a little bit out of time, so we have to wrap up a little bit. So we had one extra speaker than planned, but this was very valuable, very important insights. So for the wrap-up, we have a wrap-up meeting tomorrow morning. So I won't summarize the whole discussion, but I think there are various key elements which I think are very useful for our ambition to improve the impact of life sciences for better person-centered care at lower cost and better outcomes. So for this, we have to thank you for your contribution, and please an applause for our panel. Thank you so much.